Something is watching right now, not metaphorically. Somewhere in a field, a backyard, a forest, a dragonfly is perched completely still, and it has locked onto a mosquito. It hasn't moved a wing. It's just watching, calculating. And in less time than it takes you to blink, that mosquito will be dead. We've been studying dragonflies for over 100 years. We called them nature's perfect hunter. We made documentaries. We were impressed by the eyes, the wings, the speed, and we were wrong about almost everything. Not wrong in a small way, wrong in a way that rattled neuroscientists, confused aerospace engineers, and quietly rewrote several things we thought we understood about intelligence. This is the hunt we completely missed. Here's a number that should bother you. Lions, apex predators, muscle, coordination, pack strategy, succeed on roughly 25% of hunts. Great white sharks, around 50%. Wolves, 20%. Cheetahs, famously fast, still only around 58%. Dragonflies succeed 95% of the time. A four-winged insect with a brain smaller than a grain of rice is more accurate than virtually every apex predator on this planet. And for the longest time, we had a comfortable explanation for this. They're fast, great eyesight, good reflexes, reasonable, makes sense. Completely wrong. Because when researchers finally slowed the hunt down to the millisecond level, and when neuroscientists actually put dragonfly brains under a microscope, what they found didn't fit anything we expected from something this small. Let's start with how fast this actually happens. The entire hunt, from launch to capture, takes between 300 and 600 milliseconds, half a second. Inside that half second, the dragonfly has to identify a target moving unpredictably in 3 dimensions, calculate a flight path, launch its own body into the air, compensate for the way its body moving through the air throws off its aim, adjust in real time for the prey's evasive turns, and make physical contact. All of that, 500 milliseconds. By the time you've registered that something moved, it's over. But here's the thing most people get wrong about this. When you hear half a second, insane speed, your brain goes to reflexes. Pure reaction time. A biological machine that's just faster. That's not what's happening. Not even close. The speed is actually the least interesting part. What's happening inside that half second, what the dragonfly is actually doing, that's what collapsed the assumptions. It starts before the launch. Picture yourself as a mosquito, flying around, doing mosquito things, completely unaware that somewhere nearby, a dragonfly has you selected. Now, the obvious thing would be for the dragonfly to chase you. Go where you are, adjust as you move. Most predators do exactly this. The dragonfly doesn't do that. Instead, and this took until 2003 to formally confirm, it uses something called motion camouflage. As the dragonfly approaches, it continuously adjusts its own flight path so that from your retina's perspective, it appears to be completely stationary, like a fixed background object that's slowly, quietly, getting larger. It stays on the exact line between you and a fixed point in the distance. So the only signal your visual system gets is, that thing is getting slightly bigger, not, something is moving toward me. You are looking directly at your predator, and your brain is filing it under not a threat. This isn't color camouflage. It's not hiding in a bush. It's a real-time mathematical manipulation of its own flight path, executed automatically, at full speed, mid-chase. And it's doing this while also solving a targeting problem that shouldn't be possible with the hardware it's running on. Think about a great goalkeeper. They don't run to where the ball is. They watch the angle, the kicker's body position, the spin, and they go to where the ball is going to be. They predict. They get there first. Dragonflies do the exact same thing, but with a level of precision that made neuroscientists genuinely uncomfortable when they realized what they were looking at. When a dragonfly locks a target, it is not chasing where the prey currently is. It's running an internal simulation of where the prey will be, factoring in the prey's current velocity, likely evasive behavior, and its own body's movement through the air, and flying directly to that calculated future point. This is called a forward model, a predictive internal simulation that runs ahead of the action. Before dragonfly research, that kind of computation was thought to be a vertebrate ability, something that required a cortex, brain structures that mammals and fish have, not structures we expected to find in an insect. And then someone watched this hunt in slow motion, and the math didn't lie. You're probably now asking, how much brain does this take? That's the next part, and it's where this gets genuinely unsettling. Motion camouflage, predictive interception, real-time trajectory adjustment, independent stabilization systems. How much brain does all of that require? 16 neurons. Not 16 brain regions, not 16,000 cells, 16 individual neurons, called target selective descending neurons, are responsible for the entire hunt sequence. These 16 cells encode the direction of the prey across a full 360 degrees, trigger the launch decision, and coordinate the entire interception flight. Your phone's autocorrect is using more computing power trying to predict your next word than this animal uses to hunt at 95% accuracy. And here's what makes this even harder to accept. Those 16 neurons aren't just firing in sequence, they're encoding directional information across a full hemisphere of vision, simultaneously, with enough precision to guide a sub-500 millisecond kill. Neuroscientists had to sit with this for a while, because it broke one of the comfortable assumptions we had about intelligence and complexity. Which brings us to an ability that wasn't supposed to exist in this animal at all. Imagine you're in a loud room, music, 100 conversations happening at once, and you hear your name from across the room, and your brain instantly locks on, filtering everything else to the background. That's selective attention, the ability to pick one signal from a field of noise and dedicate all your processing to it. Until 2012, researchers believed this required a primate brain, a neural architecture complex enough to actively suppress irrelevant inputs in real time. Researchers at the University of Adelaide then found, for the first time in any invertebrate, neurons in a dragonfly's brain dedicated specifically to selective attention. When a dragonfly picks one mosquito from a swarm of hundreds, its brain locks on to that individual target and suppresses all the others completely so that nothing else can pull its focus during the chase. One insect quietly rewrote a rule cognitive scientists had held for decades. During a hunt, the dragonfly's head and body are running two completely independent stabilization systems at the same time. The body is flying to the predicted intercept point. The head is doing something different. It's independently canceling the image drift caused by the body's own movement through the air. So while the body twists and accelerates, the head counter-rotates with just enough precision that the prey's image stays perfectly locked and still on the retina throughout the entire chase. Think about what that means mechanically. Your eyes tracking a target perfectly, not because you're holding your head still, but because your head is making constant micro-corrections to cancel the movement of your sprinting body, automatically, with no conscious input. Two systems, zero lag. And then there's one more thing about this hunt that almost nobody mentions, and it's a little weird.
Dragonflies don't catch prey with their mouth. They use their legs, all six, arranged into a kind of forward-facing scoop basket, to snag the target mid-air. A larger catch gets bitten on the head to subdue it. Then the dragonfly flies to a perch, and then it spits out the wings and eats everything else, usually head first. A dragonfly can consume up to a fifth of its body weight in a single day. It is essentially a flying six-legged math-solving, wing-discarding eating machine. Which brings me to the part of this story I find most remarkable, because it turns out we're not just studying this animal, we're trying to copy it. The mathematical framework Dragonfly uses for interception, the forward model, the predictive targeting, the multi-system stabilization, is structurally identical to the guidance algorithms used in missile interception systems. Aerospace engineers spent decades developing targeting math for autonomous drones and guided munitions. And then researchers looked at a dragonfly hunt and realized this insect independently evolved the same solution. A completely different evolutionary path, a completely different substrate, the same math. It is now being directly studied for autonomous drone navigation, next-generation robotic vision, and missile guidance refinement. We didn't teach a drone to hunt like a dragonfly. We discovered that a dragonfly already figured out what our engineers were trying to build, with 16 neurons in half a second for 300 million years. So here's the thing about getting dragonflies wrong. We didn't get it wrong because we weren't paying attention. We got it wrong because we assumed that small meant simple, that an insect couldn't run predictive models, couldn't have selective attention, couldn't independently solve a targeting problem that stumped engineers. Every one of those assumptions collapsed under a microscope. And that's exactly the kind of thing this channel exists to show you. Evolution doesn't follow our expectations. Sometimes it does something so backwards, so broken, so bizarre, or in this case, so quietly devastating, that it makes us realize we weren't paying nearly as much attention as we thought we were. If this changed how you think about what a simple animal can do, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe if you want more. The next video is going to make you genuinely uncomfortable about something you use every day. I'll see you there.